So I'm at the New England, is it the New England Horror Writers Society or
Okay.
at Super Mega Fest in Framingham, and took a card, talked to them a little bit, and then we decided. I mean, we're always looking for guests, so it's kind of like, oh, maybe we can get someone, whatever. And so I joined them on Facebook, and I asked whoever moderates the group.
Yeah, I think she's a moderator. Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like New England Artist Network. Is that the one?
No, so now I'm not sure where you saw it. Boston area artists? Is that?
Oh, okay, yeah, Boston area.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I also posted.
She's
on
got
that
like
one.
3 of them.
Yeah,
she's probably got more than 3.
That would explain why you're not a horror writer. I was very confused. It was like right around the same time, but I just posted that on there, and every once in a while I do that just to kind of get guests beyond our friends.
Right. No, my background's in music and video.
Yeah,
That's how I
yeah. Okay. Because you responded right after I posted it on a horror writers page.
Oh, okay.
So when I got your message, I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, she had tagged me in one of the comments or something, and then, I was like, all right, great.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you guys are...
So, are you ready? Are we recording? He just does that. All right, so Inebri-arts, we are back here again at the Craft Beer Cellar in Plymouth, Mass. on Main Street, where if you're going to be looking for beer, it's a place to go. And we are here with Tristan, who is a video artist and musician. Is that the best way to describe it? Yeah. So, Tristan, what exactly is a video artist?
Well, there's a great history of video art going back into, 60s and 70s, people with video synthesizers and making those interesting graphics and stuff. I started doing video art in high school and then followed that up in college, and then became a video professional doing everything from, I do a lot of concert backdrops now.
Okay, yeah.
But I've also done a lot of corporate video and a lot of different types of editing, educational videos, music videos. But we keep coming back to this sort of like blend between video sampling, collage sampling, kind of almost like, some of that 80s and 90s hip-hop.
Yeah.
Sampling culture, and then kind of mixing that with sort of the modern dance music culture and sort of, festival
So how would you describe it? How would it vary from, say, like filmmaking? Like how does it depart from that?
Well, similar skills, with the shooting and the editing and stuff. And I've done some filmmaking in the past, documentaries mostly. So I have kind of the classic background. I would guess that's maybe more like a classical discipline. Making a film has a bit more, usually has a beginning, a middle, and an end. They're usually feature lengths, about 90 minutes.
So is video art more non-linear?
Yeah, it's usually a little more non-linear, sometimes more abstract.
Yeah.
I think you can get away with more, per se. And then making a film is also a ton of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of focus on one project. It's a great endeavor, but it definitely, carve out a couple of years of your life.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so you said you got started in high school. Were you like part of like an AV club? Or,
Yeah, definitely AV. The kid pushing in the cart with the VCR and the TV strapped down.
I'm so happy you said
to
VCR. I'm so happy. I like the running thing on this is we get people who tend to be born the year I graduated. So you say things like VCR, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, and that's part of it. We did a festival in Boston called the Illuminous Festival, and part of our installation had TVs and VCRs, sort of almost like a makeshift den set up right out in the street with the TV and the VCR all connected, and we had a camcorder set up as well, so people could Instagram themselves on the old school video stuff. But it's great because, like you said, there were a lot of people who had never even seen a cassette tape before,
never
seen a video cassette,
or like the old school video cameras that weigh like 20 pounds.
The shoulder cam, the old soccer, at the old soccer game, or
I was talking about those yesterday, and I'm like, I remember when my dad got them. We would go on vacation, and he'd be like, "All right, everybody get in front of the statue," and you'd stand in front of the statue, and you'd have 5 minutes of everyone just standing there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like this is not used to its best.
Yeah, it was
potential.
that early years of the camera. Nobody really knew what to do, so it was
Right.
always kind of waving, a little bit of waving.
Right. Say hi.
Say
Yeah,
hi.
Yeah.
Now those moments are like priceless. The awkwardness of those moments
Yeah.
tend to be,
I feel like this generation is more savvy because they're exposed to things like Vine and Instagram, where everyone has done a little bit of video production, even if it's just like a couple seconds at a time. Like, you understand that it's about content and not just still picture.
And also a lot of these younger folks, I mean, if you were born, say, in the last even, say, 15 or 20 years, there's a good chance that your entire life has been documented in pictures and video.
Yeah.
Possibly even publicly.
Oh, sure, yeah.
If you got parents that...
I had, when my kids were really little, there were pictures of them on my MySpace page. That's how far, back it was. And so there was never a time when it was kind of like they weren't publicly on camera, I guess.
Yeah. So that I would imagine that will be, different for them. We're kind of like one of the first generations that we'll be able to remember what it was like.
As we can say, back in my day.
Yeah, back in our day, before this kind of digital world took over.
So after high school, did you go on to college, like film school or
I did.
art school? Where'd you go?
New England Tech.
New England Tech?
Yep. So got a video production program there. And from there, I ended up heading out west to Austin, Texas.
I hear Austin's amazing.
It is.
Like, I've heard really, really good things about it.
It is. It's easy to fall in love with Austin when someone describes it to you. Especially someone that's really enthusiastic about it. And that's kind of what happened to me. So I wanted to go check it out. And
so why is it different than the rest of Texas?
Well, it's definitely sort of like an oasis of creativity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of writers there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of musicians there. A lot of filmmakers there. And then, fantastic restaurants, coffee shops, bars, and just great. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff like that in Texas in general, but something about Austin brings like kind of the more eclectic people to all gather there. And so
I feel like you just need kind of those first dozen people to kind of accumulate in the same place and kind of get something going. And so then you came back to Boston. Like, what led to that?
That was just sort of a kind of a life shift. I think I was maybe late 20s or something, and you kind of miss New England a little bit. New England's. I grew up here.
It's not for everybody, but it's true New Englanders wouldn't live anywher else.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a great scene here in Boston. There's a great scene in Rhode Island. Out here, South Coast wise, South Shore. There's great stuff happening all over New England.
Yeah.
For music,
there's
for
a
art.
lot of like little kind of islands of cool stuff going on. I know New Bedford has Gallery X and stuff going on there, and then there's a huge push down here in Plymouth in arts and music, and
which is awesome.
Yeah,
what a great thing.
It's weird. I gush about it all the time on the podcast, but it just everyone down here is just so open to. Oh, what do you want to do? Yeah, sure, let's do that. Let's try that, and it just makes life easy.
Yeah,
when everyone kind of gets along. Do you find that kind of environment in Boston, where it's such a bigger scale?
I like Cambridge a lot. I do a lot of stuff in Cambridge, kind of Mass Ave area. So I think there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people trying to do cool things. Boston itself can be kind of unforgiving in terms of everything from weather and traffic to just logistics and getting things done in general. It can be
just
challenging.
Sheer getting from one street to the next sometimes is an absolute effort.
Absolutely, and it can be kind of maddening just sort of dealing with the kind of day to day there. But
I went to record a band up in Somerville last week, and for some reason my GPS decided to get off 93 right in Chinatown.
Oh, okay.
To get back on 93 just like 4 blocks away, and of course it's having me go around the block once and then up and around, and I'm like, this can't be the fastest possible way. And it's
changed a lot up that way too.
I really love going to Boston, but I don't know if I'm a Bostonian. Like, I don't know if I live there.
Yeah.
So do you live in town or do you live down
No,
in-
I'm in a town called Attleboro.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm
sure,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
You're on, like, right on the Rhode Island line. So,
Right on the Rhode
yeah.
Island line, exactly.
Nice.
So,
what kind of music do you create? How
Well-
would you describe it?
the last couple of years I've been doing solo stuff, so that's mostly electronic music.
Mm-hmm.
But I come from a band background.
Yeah.
I was in a band called 151
Okay.
here in Massachusetts.
Big rum drinkers?
Started kind of young, so it wasn't that kind of came later.
Yeah.
But we did that for a while. That was kind of like the early beginnings of blending music and film projections. At the time, we were doing a lot with 16 millimeter projections, and kind of combining the visual elements and the music together. And that took us to Austin, Texas. We did that there for a few more years, and at some point we switched over to a different band called Blue Eyed Fools, and that we took with us back here to New England. And that's a continuation of the same thing, where we're kind of blending visuals with the music.
Yeah. And you see a lot of that in, like, the large-scale productions. Like if you go see Rob Zombie, it jumps to mind
Sure.
specifically. There's props and videos that
Right.
run through the whole thing. You don't see it nearly as much in a local club setting.
Right, right.
Do you feel that really adds like a unique component to your music? Is that like, do you think that build a bigger audience for you?
It definitely it adds a unique quality, I think. It's something we think a lot about. So I also do that type of production for hire. So I've worked for a lot of different bands, helping them bring their visuals to the bigger stages. And so to do that in a smaller setting, it's great, When we think about it, as we're making the music, we're thinking about the visuals. And as we're doing the visuals, we're thinking about what kind of music would go with it. So I think in the end, you get something that's kind of... We find it to be a unique experience. I mean, that's kind of something we've always been pushing for, myself. And I work with another artist named Patrick Ryan. He helps me with a lot of the visuals. And he's also a singer as well. So we come from the band background, but the last couple of years, we've been gravitating more towards nightclubs and sort of the underground, rave scene, party scene, whatever.
Which then, I mean, that it makes sense to be kind of like in between Providence and Boston then, because those, you're not going to find places like that here in Plymouth. Like a lot of them is more folky rock cover band. We've had a metal band on our podcast a couple times, and they love living in the area, but they're like, no one wants a metal band to play in their restaurant.
It's a tricky, metal these days is, definitely, I mean, I think New Bedford's probably, like you said, still got some pretty cool stuff going on. Fall River does a lot with bands. Providence has always got bands, Boston. It's tricky, though. The band thing is like, it's kind of tricky.
Yeah.
It's all tricky,
Yeah,
but there's something to be said about, when you keep it simple, it's easier to manage.
Right, yeah.
As life gets more complex, as you get older, people's lives get more complicated, and trying to find 3 or 4 individuals that can all be on the same page all the time, But it's worth it, I think, when it all comes together and you have, that amazing magic that only musicians can, live musicians can bring together,
And so when you're making a video, like we've talked to a lot of musicians and kind of gotten everyone's take on how they particularly write music or whatnot, but where do you start from a video? Especially where, like you said, it's kind of like collage-y. Are you watching an old movie and go, oh, that's a cool clip right there, or like...
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something we've been doing for a long time.
Yeah.
It's just, seeing clips in a movie or, sometimes even in a weird TV show. My partner Patrick loves like those old obscure 70s and 80s television shows, or even further back sometimes. You hear something and it's like the second you hear it, you think, oh, that would make a great sample.
Right.
And then so sometimes you'll end up building a whole sort of piece around that one sample or around that one idea, or perhaps one movie. The other night we were doing stuff with Back to the Future, but the whole sequence at the beginning of Back to the Future where he's turning on all the circuits.
Oh,
and
right,
all the
yeah,
switches
all the amps and turning all the dials up.
Yeah, all the
and,
dials just to get to the amp piece. And so we made like a whole little piece out of just that beginning sequence, just looping it and going back. And, rather than some people might do like a whole long montage, we were keeping it pretty short and just kind of little bites that.
So what's your average video run?
The songs are usually about 3 minutes long.
So you try to keep them within that same.
Yeah. I write a lot of the music. A lot of the electronic music is kind of written with the idea of jamming over the top of it.
Right.
So we'll keep it to 3-minute songs, 3.5-minute songs, just to keep it moving along. That's definitely something I picked up in the electronic scene.
Yeah.
Is they keep it moving. It's one thing after the other. Even if it's a big hit song everybody knows, they don't milk it.
Yeah.
Like coming from the rock background where it's the 7-minute version of the song. And
here's my 13-minute drum solo.
Yeah, the drum solo, the extended breaks and stuff.
I went and saw Metallica. It's the Dunkin' Donuts Center now.
Sure.
It wasn't then. And you know how every band does like the sing-along one song, and for them it's always Seek and Destroy. And usually most bands do like, left side, right side, center, everybody's, and I swear he broke it down by section, and it went around the entire building to the point where it got back to us and we were talking.
Yeah.
Forgot what song they were.
Yeah. You kind of lose the plot at a certain point.
It's just kind of like, all right, that was way too long. So kind of keeping it moving is really...
It's
really
tricky,
good advice,
and I was watching a concert. I was actually doing the video support on. It was a country act, and in the middle of the thing, it was like, let's stop and take selfies with everyone. It started with like one person with the camera, hey, take my picture, and then another person's like, hey, take my picture, and like by the third person, she's got the camera. And next thing you know, it turns into 20 minutes of. Pictures.
So is this the fan trying to take a picture with the act?
Right. Like, here's my camera. Take a picture of you and me. Like, let's do a selfie. You're in the middle of the song. And so it was kind of cute the first couple times.
Right. But then after 20 minutes, you're like, let's go.
You're like, okay.
TikTok.
Hey, we're at a concert here.
Right,
we're actually literally in the middle of a concert, and same kind of thing where it's... I also think, something I've noticed over the last couple of years in the audiences is definitely...
Is it the people holding their phones up?
It's the people holding their phones up. It's almost like I don't know about you when we were kids, but when I would go to concerts, it felt like the older kids and the adults that were there kind of showed you what to do.
Kind of, yeah.
You just kind of watched them, and it was like, everyone's pumping their fists to the bass drum. I guess I'll do that. Oh, everybody sings along. Okay, I'm going to sing along, and you kind of just learn by watching. And, now I feel like there's so much complexity to all of it. Some people are just lost. Like, they don't even know what to do at the concerts anymore.
It's so crazy because, and it's a very recent thing, I think, but you go and you see people live streaming it or recording it, and it's like, it's right fucking in front of you.
Yeah.
Why are you looking at your screen? Look at the dude on the stage. Like, it's
and then I find myself looking at their camera because now I'm like nosy about their shot. I'm like, what's he doing? Video or picture? Oh, okay, he's live streaming it. Okay,
and like, I don't mind someone taking out their phone, taking a couple snapshots.
Yeah,
and then you put your phone away. Like, that's cool. Whatever, just kind of. Oh, look. I was at the Rob Zombie show my friend or whatever. But I've gone to concerts with people and like they'll record whole songs. And I've read and heard interviews with, people in the science and medical field that when you record things, it literally gives your brain permission to forget it.
Wow.
So you forget it easier when you record it. Because you don't, so after the first week or so after showing your friends, check out this video of the concert I saw, you generally don't go back and watch it.
Not really, no. I mean, we've all got a few, and every once in a great while, you'd be like, what's this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think that was,
But form the memory. Just, take a picture and remember.
Stay in the moment.
Stay in the moment, enjoy yourself. To me, that's what the concert's about.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know how musicians do it now. Like, I feel like looking out across a sea of cell phones, I feel like really
I think you get used to it a little bit. I know that when I'm doing video at a concert, we're not on stage. We're usually, where the sound person would be.
Right, yeah.
And so for me, it's always kind of validating in some way because I know when I see all the phones come out, I'm like, oh, okay, we're doing like the cool everybody take their phone out moment.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's kind of like, oh, okay, you know, like if it's the lights doing something really, it's usually some really dramatic moment, you know, and then that's. I find it fascinating to be like, this is the moment. Everyone's like, now
this is what I want to capture.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Suppose,
or, you know, obviously if the singer does something really kind of, unpredictable or something, you know, whatever. But like, it's kind of interesting to see. And then, you know, sometimes you see it. Sometimes it's like they all come out like the lighters instead of the lighters. They'll do the phone thing.
I'll give them that. I mean, the lighters, you always burnt the shit out of your thumb.
Right.
So, like, okay, that makes sense. But
probably always made everybody nervous. Always kind of makes me nervous, too, when I see all the lighters.
All the lighters? Do they still do lighters? Like, I don't feel like I've seen that going
It's
on.
like, I don't think it's as encouraged as much. Now it's more, you know, everyone's got that big LED in their hands. So it's like...
I feel like nowadays, if you were going through security, they'd confiscate the lighter. Like, you don't need that here.
Yeah.
Because you can't smoke in any venue.
Right.
So,
like,
what do you need a lighter for?
I've seen some shows in Japan where they, you know, I think it was a Sony show where they all had, they passed out batons to everybody, and everybody had a baton that lights up. Cool. And then, you know, certain part of the song, they were sort of all mapped out, and they had some kind of cool effects going on, sort of.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of audience participation, you know, interactive.
I've even heard of concerts where, like when you enter, they give you like a lock bag, and you have to put your phone in it. And the bag locks, so you have your phone, but you can't access it. And if you want to call or text someone, you have to go to like this central place, and then you can take your phone out. But in order for you to go back to the show, you have to put your phone back in the lock bag.
Wow,
I've never seen it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah,
you know, at some.
No, I know there's some bands have policies about the no recording and the no video, and some of them are pretty adamant about enforcing it. You know, I guess that's one way to sort of steer the other way.
Yeah.
You know, I
feel like they're definitely bigger bands, though, you know?
Yeah, you know, and I guess, you know, for some, you know, like, maybe they don't want, you know, they put a lot of time and effort into the production, so if you got a big surprise for the fourth song,
right?
Maybe you don't want everybody...
Or if they're working on new material and they're going to play a new song that hasn't been released yet.
But to me, it's kind of like once it's happened, it's sort of happened, it's sort of out there. I feel like it's a little bit like, you know, I personally wouldn't want to infringe on anybody's right to record or do whatever the heck they want, usually, if it's not hurting somebody else. You know?
Right.
But I can certainly see why some people might want to kind of keep it special.
Yeah.
You know, or you know, the idea of 100 videos on the YouTube. What I personally don't like is when people come and film early. Some people will be like, you know,
like, the just empty stage?
Just empty stuff, and it's just like, you're like the people that take the pictures early in the night, you're just like, oh, it's so early. You know?
The sun's not even down yet.
Yeah, like, let the thing happen, you know?
Yeah. So what were your music influences, say, like, high school? Like, when I feel like that's kind of when people's...
Yeah, it's when it really starts kicking in, you know? I was really... It started in, like, the... You know, new wave and punk. You know, I was really into bands like INXS and REM, U2. That was kind of like 8th grade into 9th grade.
Yep.
And then I discovered bands like Nine Inch Nails, Ministry, KMFDM. You got deeper into like the
Skinny
Cure,
Puppy,
Skinny Puppy. Yep. And then
I was I've seen them a couple times. My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult.
Yep.
They put on a great show.
Absolutely. Yeah. Still really fun band to see. And yeah, it's great. You know, I got really into all of that in high school, and then that kind of stayed with me. And so I actually have got to work with a lot of those artists over the years in capacity.
Oh, really? Like who?
Been working with some of the folks from Ministry. I've been working with Paul from Ministry.
Oh yeah, he wasn't he in? Shit, they had so many like spin-off bands.
Yeah, Led Into Gold. Was
was he Pigface?
He did a lot of work on the first Pigface record as well. And so that's another group I've worked with. I've recorded with them, and I've done a lot of work with Martin Atkins, a lot of video stuff with Martin. And
I always found Pigface fascinating because it always seemed like, you know, this is going way back, so if my memory's shot, please excuse me, but it was Martin Atkins' band.
Yep.
And whoever happened to be hanging around at the time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like, he'd just get his buddies together, and then.
But his buddies would be like Ogre, Paul Barker, you know, Chris Conley, and you know, William Tucker.
You'd like look at their live album, and it would be like, you know, all these people.
Yeah, Danny Carey's playing on it.
And then
you know?
Flea.
Yeah.
And, just these completely random people
Yeah.
because they happen to be around or checking them out or whatever. And
Yeah, well, I mean, Martin's definitely, he's a fascinating individual, and he knows a lot of people. A lot of people gravitate towards him, and he's done a lot of work with different bands. So, I love that first record. Still, one of my favorites, and then all the records he did after that.
Was it Gub?
Yeah, Gub.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff played a heavy role in the formative years, and that first band 151 was heavily influenced by all that music, definitely.
So do you find that music, obviously, especially back then, and didn't have a huge mass appeal like it was?
Right. It's pretty underground.
Yeah. Do you feel times have changed? Do you feel that there's more people who are less intimidated or more open to that kind of music? Or?
I think that for a while it was kind of considered old school.
Yeah.
But
I don't like when you say that.
It wasn't my favorite thing. I had never really left that. I kind of always followed what those different bands were doing, and I guess like I said, I got to work with a few of them. But now it's interesting because all that stuff from the 90s is really sort of fully made its comeback. I feel like even industrial music, which I kind of was always either hoping or dreading the day that might happen.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they drag this stuff out from the past, and then they just punk has gotten so many awful makeovers,
or they drag someone out who's been retired that you're like, no, he's retired for a reason.
It gets it. Multiplicity, remember that movie Multiplicity with
Michael Keaton?
Copy of the copy of the copy, and then eventually it's the one with the boot on its head.
Right.
So you don't want to see that happen. But I think what happened with industrial music is people just discovered that there was this really great aesthetic, and there was all this really quality music from the 80s and 90s. And some of those people have been making music consistently since then. So with the return of Cold Waves Festival, which they're doing 3 of them this year. It's made a pretty big comeback. So it's kind of I also feel like America in general is just kind of in a wacky place culturally right now. So
it's a good way to put it.
Nothing's really shocking. I mean, we've already the goth look. I've seen the goth look so many times, sort of used generally as a punchline a lot of times in sort of pop culture. But it's also kind of always been creeping around.
And I felt like it would always just kind of slight variations. It was the metalhead, and then it became goth, which it's a thin line between goth and, Judas Priest metal.
Right.
And then that became...
People that wear black, and then it turns into guy liner or eyeliner, and the spikes. It's either spikes or bangs in your face.
Yeah.
The swoopy cuts.
Yeah.
All that stuff. I mean, that was all... I think that kind of all goes back to the, you don't want to look like the shiny, happy people.
Right.
You tend to look like the other folks, in the 50s it was probably the greasers.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And the outsiders look, and then, in the 80s the punk thing was definitely more...
Yeah. It's funny you bring up the greasers, because I have a son who's, he's going to turn 16 in June, and, he's into metal, but it's really interesting because he's... he loves Five Finger Death Punch and Alice Cooper.
Awesome.
And recently, one of the things that he talks about a lot is The Outsiders, the movie. And he's like, oh, it's such a good movie.
Yeah.
And, he'll make a reference to Pony Boy, and I'll be like,
That's great. I mean,
it's
that's
I talk to
a
20-year-old who doesn't know what, what that's, but he's...
Well, it's got a timelessness to it. The story of the Outsiders, and just the way they band together.
Yep.
The way they're all looking out for each other. All the brothers looking out for each other.
And I think it always appeals to those who feel like they don't fit in.
Right.
And that's kind of one of those. That's the through line between the metalhead, the punk kid, the goth kid, the emo kid. It's all people who feel like they don't fit into the norm, so they've kind of made their own norm or family.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you feel that kind of subculture is more open, or do you feel that it's kind of... Do you think the Breakfast Club would really happen?
I think it kind of depends on the kids. I mean, definitely. There's times that emo scene or the punk scene or even the industrial scene, whatever subgenre of electronic music you're into.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen lots of bullying on all fronts. I've seen people bully each other over what shade of, are you blacker than me?
Right.
Whose clothes are blacker, whose clothes are more metal.
Your nail polish is black, mine's charcoal.
Right. Or, this band's, the terrible, people get very passionate about that stuff. And to an extent, that can be great. Sometimes that's really healthy,
Mm-hmm.
But other times it can turn into, like, the same kind of bullying that, I experienced from the, whatever, the jocks in high school or something,
right.
And then sometimes you see a lot of the sports kids now, sometimes it's kind of like it's not as obvious as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes some of the people who dress more normal feel the way the outsiders used to feel.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the people that are dressing all punk rock or all splashy are doing it more with confidence for attention and stuff rather than that kind of nihilism or kind of like anti-social vibe, from the 90s. So
they do it for more attention more than
I think so.
Don't talk to me.
Yeah. A lot of the young women too, I think, do it for the fashion too, because it's, it's a fun fashion look, but it's not necessarily a lifestyle choice for them. You know,
it's just interesting how things are so reciprocal. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
And sometimes I think what I think is personally cool is when you see like the sporto kid hanging out with the goth kid, or the hip hop kid hanging out with the nerd kid, and you see just people kind of just pooling together maybe because of personality traits.
And I feel like a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times, if you sit down with someone and just talk, eventually you'll find some common ground.
Yeah.
Whether it's music you like, movie you like, talk Star Wars. Everybody freaking loves Star Wars now.
Yeah, there's those bonding things, and you don't always get those in high school. A lot of times it's so awkward, and I can only imagine now, like in the day of social networking and sort of like phones and just digital culture and
right, where you're kind of always on stage.
Always on stage, and that's the thing is you can't escape it, and I would imagine that's the hardest part about being a younger person now is like it's like all the time. You can't ever just get away from it because I'm sure the second you're not in school, it's just internet all night.
When I think about all the dumb shit I did when I was a kid, and like if my friends had cameras on them all the time that they could get pictures of it all the time, you'd be like,
the thing, just so many, it was
because now every once in a while you'll like reconnect with someone. They'll be like, oh, do you remember when you did this stupid thing? Opposed to look at this picture I have of you. Yeah, it's totally different. Yeah,
or when you're like, I don't remember. Like here it is.
I have it right here. Oh, by the way, I posted on Instagram.
Yeah.
So you got to work with all these bands. Like, what was like the one kind of shining moment that you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if it'll ever get back to that like height again, or
I don't know. I've been pretty fortunate. I got to do a really cool concert for PBS in Boston.
Like public broadcasting?
Yeah, it was one of their fundraising
cool
specials that featured Yo-Yo Ma and Sting.
Yeah,
did a couple numbers. Steve Tyler.
Wow, not too many conversations you have go from Pigface to Yo-Yo Ma in like 10 minutes.
No, and it was like the same within the same couple of years too. It's great. I've been very fortunate. The video side of my career has taken me all sorts of places all over the country, even to some of the different places in the world, and getting to work with Pigface, getting to work with Ministry, getting to work with those guys, getting to work with Paul is it's outstanding. Yeah, it's the 16-year-old in me goes crazy. I probably I've worked with some. I've got to work with Snoop Dogg, Motley Crue, all kinds of artists that I never would have expected.
How do you rein in that fanboy 16-year-old? I mean.
Well, Martin helped
me. You don't want to be that. Oh my God, I love you.
Yeah, oh my God, tell me. Well, part of it is the vibe you get. Like when you're there, you definitely, like for example, like hanging out with Motley Crue. They're a very family kind of vibe there, but they're like, also, well, like they're a family. Like
okay, all right, I didn't get to. You saw it on the look on my face, but. it's for someone like that. When you say family, it's like,
Yeah.
well, they're old enough where they could be touring with their
Yeah,
family.
no,
You
and
just
it
don't
is.
know.
Well,
yeah.
it does kind of have that family,
Yeah.
friends and family kind of vibe when they're sort of, when they're rehearsing and stuff. But outside of that, it definitely is a little more. You realize right away, like, oh, we need to, stay on the level here. I need to be delivering A+.
Right.
A+ performance.
You got to be
material.
like, well, I'm working. So.
Yeah, no, it was obvious. I mean, we walked.
Yeah.
They had probably about $1.5 million worth of video gear on stage. So it's like, all right, we better make sure all the content's working right. And we had spent 3 months preparing it, so we were ready. But
Right.
So you gotta, when you walk on site. I mean, and sometimes some of these shows, I worked with a actor a couple years ago. I won't say his name right now. He's not the most popular actor at the moment, but at the time was a very
Charlie
popular.
Sheen. I bet you it was Charlie Sheen.
It wasn't, but similar.
Yeah.
Not the most popular actor
Okay.
at the moment. It's interesting because it was one of the biggest gigs I had done up until that point. And, this person came into Northeastern and they had like a PowerPoint. They didn't even have the PowerPoint presentation. They had like 100 pictures, and it was like. In 20 minutes, and it was like you had to build a whole show out of like 100 pictures.
Geez. So they were just kind of like, here's a thumb drive, make it happen.
And so just dragging and dropping into the PowerPoint or whatever, and then this actor's just freestyling as we go. But that was, those kinds of challenges.
Is there like one incident that will always live in infamy without naming names?
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody drops the ball once in a while. I had a pretty catastrophic. Nobody got hurt, thank God. It wasn't like that kind of thing. It was digital failure, but I was in front of a couple thousand people, and we just, the video wasn't working. Technical difficulties,
Yeah.
We got it a couple times, almost there, and you could. Funny story, a couple funny stories. One recently, there was one where we were doing a kids show, and it was all on a track, and of course it's like a half an hour track that they get you 10 minutes before the show goes. So we didn't actually get to watch it till the end, and they had some sort of problem with the end of the track, and it was a kids show with all dancing heads.
Yeah,
a sold out auditorium of kids dancing to this like glitched out thing at the end, and then it's like you just hear a room full of like no. So that's kind of catastrophic, but usually you try to take precautions so you're not going to run into too many problems. I did have a lady come up to me the other day that was I guess the strobe lights. I wasn't doing lighting, but the strobes were freaking them out, but some people love that stuff. Most of the time they're like, more strobes. Even when it's an older crowd, they're like, we want more lights, more flashing, more. Everybody always wants more.
When do you have to coordinate ahead of time, like with the lighting, where it's video? Because I mean,
we try.
You have to like work out, or you don't want it to.
You don't want it to clash or whatever. No, we try, but sometimes we're literally doing a lot of it on the fly. Sometimes for some of the biggest shows we do are all on the fly.
Are there any projects that you're working on currently that you can tell us about?
Let's see. I can say I'm going to be involved in that Cold Waves Festival.
Yeah,
doing some production work there.
Do you know who's performing on it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be working with Lead Into Gold.
Oh, nice.
And we're on the same night that Ogre is going to be performing, and also a newer group called Omniflux.
Okay. Is that here in town, or?
That's going to be in New York, Chicago, and L.A.
Oh, okay.
So there's going to be 3 of those in September.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so that's some cool stuff to look forward to. Doing a college show at St. Anselm College, I think it is. Up northern Mass. And a couple smaller festival things this summer. I'll be doing, if you see the alien head, a lot of times I don't even show up on flyers. I don't do a lot of social media. It's
just an alien head?
You just see the alien head pop up.
Yeah.
It's like the drawn cartoon alien head. Then Alien TV's
and where can people go to see your work? You must have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. You can find me on Facebook, too. I do the Facebook and Twitter. It's just Tristan Rudat on Facebook.
Okay.
And the music page is Tristan Rudat Music. And that hashtag has a lot of the music posts. And Alien TV here in New England is all the video stuff.
Is that YouTube? Alien TV?
Alien TV's on YouTube as well. I think the YouTube is ATV 5151.
Okay.
Is
Now, do you ever do stuff kind of like, have you ever thought about like doing a TV show kind of thing, or like?
We do something similar to what you guys are doing now, where we do like a video cast, where we just perform. We don't interview too much on that. Usually, it's just the music and the visuals, and that's through Alien TV.
Yeah,
so you can find that on YouTube and on the Facebook page. We do
nice.
Like live streaming.
Yeah, there's another guy, I can't remember off the top of my head what the name of his show is, but he does like a live Facebook show, and
Jack McDermott's been doing a few. His are just he's been doing just DJing on his.
Yeah, and it very much reminds me of like old school local cable.
Yeah,
access.
like cable access. Yeah. Well, Patrick works at a cable access station in Sharon.
Yeah,
as he's a production supervisor there, so he's behind the scenes of those shows. But yeah, we have a lot of that type of vibe and flavor.
Yeah, nice.
The old analog,
from back in our day.
Yeah, and we're keeping it alive.
This was so refreshing to get to talk to someone that.
Yeah,
like,
thank you. Appreciate that.
That I don't feel like is going to be at my funeral.
No, well, I mean, I love digital culture.
Yeah.
I love kind of all the new things that are happening. I try to stay, up to date with stuff, but. My heart's in the stuff I grew up with, so trying to bridge those things and turn some of the, younger VJs and stuff, showing them some of the cooler analog stuff we had to work with, and the same with the music, that we got to experience and share some of that with them, some of that classic.
Nice.
Classic
stuff. Well, it was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're going to give us a song so we can add it on to the end of this?
Sure,
sweet.
Sure.
So make sure you don't shut this podcast off until you hear the music. And, thanks again, man.
Yeah, Tristan Rudat Music, and thanks a lot for having me.
All right. Thanks for listening to our podcast. Don't forget to check out our other podcast. There's the Bar Talk podcast. There's Old Colony Cast. And, of course, the Inebri-art podcast along with Jam Packed. You can find all those on Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. If you're on some sort of service and you can't find it, let us know, and we'll help you out and or add our podcast with that too. You can contact us at Inebri-art@yahoo.com and follow us on Facebook as well as Twitter at Inebri-art. And feel free to send us some tips, ideas, advice, hate mail, whatever it is, you can get us there. And again, thanks for listening.